Good morning. Whoa, that was wild. Good morning and welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation that warmly embraces individuals of diverse philosophies and beliefs, encompassing a variety of cultures, races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. No matter who you are or where you are on your journey, we hope this space serves as a place of rest and restoration for you. I am Twinks Hastings, the Director of Lifespan Religious Education, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our worship this morning with our interim minister, Rev. Karen Anderson, and our music director, Kaiza Fern. Please note that our services are recorded and made available on our YouTube channel midweek. Masks are optional during worship, however, the back right-hand corner has been designated an area where we wear masks masks are required to ensure inclusivity for all. At First Parish, we joyfully welcome the sounds, movements, and laughter of children, recognizing them as vital members of our community. We do kindly ask that you silence your cell phones. If you're visiting us for the first time today, we extend a special welcome to you. If you'd like to learn more about First Parish, we have welcome cards located on the pew in front of you. And if you fill that out and put it in the offertory basket, someone will reach out to you in the week. We also welcome those worshiping from home. Usually give them a wave. We're grateful for your presence with us. As we gather this morning, let us honor the sacredness of our time together. And I believe Rev. Karen has an announcement.
Good morning. Does everybody have a stone? Okay, good. Do not throw them at me, please. I just wanted to make an announcement about a block party coming up that you are all invited to. As you know, it is hard to secure housing on the Cape. And one of the problems with calling a minister here is often it is hard to figure out how to be able to afford a house, right, on the Cape. You guys need to nod with me, okay? Yes, or rent all year long without having to move back and forth, right? So when I first came here, it's one of the things I brought up with the board, and to their great credit, they put together 3 different teams to think through all the ways that we might be able to support funding for a minister coming in, like a second mortgage or, helping to pay with rent, those kinds of things. Anyway, they've done an excellent job of kind of filtering through what's a good option, what's not a good option. They're going to present that at the end of the week, but on the 29th, we're having a block party. 27. Oh, sorry. She is going to throw the stone at me, yes. Okay, 27th, we are having a block party after church, right? Yes, okay. So, we're not going to coffee hour. I'm going to be like the Pied Piper, okay? I'm going to go over to Winslow House and the lawn, and we're having a big block party and fundraiser. There will be games and food, and everyone's invited and included. And music. Wow, you are going to throw a stone. I know you, Debbie. So please come. Right after church. Okay? All right. Oh, sorry. I did say that part. I did.
With that, welcome to worship. It is so good to be together.
Good morning. Leave it to Kaeza to have one more instrument she knows how to play. When I was in high school, I drove a 1979 Ford pickup, 3-on-the-floor stick, and it was a fabulous truck, let me just say. I lived in Madison, Wisconsin. Nobody else really drove a truck at the time, so I was known as the girl who drove the truck. I love that truck. Anyway, one day I'm driving my friend home. She lived on the top of a hill, and she gets out of the car, and I realize, she forgot something. So I put the emergency brake on, and I run inside to give her the thing, and I come back out, and the truck is gone. And my first thought is like, oh my God, somebody stole the truck. And then I walked down the hill a little bit. The truck had rolled down the hill, across the sidewalk, down a 6-foot barrier to somebody's backyard, into 6-foot lilac bushes, 6 feet away from their plate glass window. The nose of the truck was like this, and the wheels are slowly going like that. I was very grateful because it was elementary school kids that were getting out of school at the same time, and I was so glad that this phantom truck didn't scare the crap out of anybody, and they weren't walking near there, right? But I go inside and I call my dad up, and I'm like, Dad, I just had something happen with the truck. And he goes, right away, he goes, are you okay? And I said, yes, I am okay. He said, but the truck's not okay. And then he came over, he looks at the truck, he actually kind of laughs a little bit. And then, AAA came and took the truck away, and I never got in trouble for that. It was thousands of dollars in the 80s that took to repair that truck, right? And I never really understood my dad's response until about a month before he died, and he was dying. He had a year to live, and we were swapping stories with each other, and I asked him why he never yelled at us when my sister and I got in a car accident. And he said, in the 1950s, he got his driver's license, and he took his sisters, all 3 of his sisters, into the car, and they went to this place in the country where there was this bump in the road, and everybody knew that if you went fast enough over the bump in the road, you would be flying for a very brief period of time, right? So he's all excited to be able to do this himself with his sisters, and he goes over the bump, flies in the air, loses control of his car, and it goes off and it hits a telephone pole. None of them were in seatbelts. Nobody got hurt, miraculously, but they're all kind of bruised up. Turns out the telephone pole then flies down onto the ground. The farmer, I swear to you, this is a true story. The farmer had been drinking, comes out, puts its hand on the electrical wire, gets shocked. They call the ambulance. His parents come. They're screaming at him. And I'm like, why did you never tell me that story? And he starts crying. And he says to me, because I have such shame about that I put my sisters in so much danger that I can't even say it to myself. And I said, well, Dad, thanks for telling me that story, right? I think my dad got that we are all the 4 F's. Now, you've been around long enough, you should understand what the 4 F's are, right? Fragile, flawed, effed up, and fabulous, right? But the thing about that is that you have to know that that happens to other people. I was so grateful for that gift. And I think actually that's one of the reasons that we come to church. Seriously. We come because we can mirror to each other that we are all flawed and fabulous and fragile, right? We can. That's such a great gift to know in life, that you're not alone. Welcome to our celebration of life where others are as stupid as me. Would you please rise and greet your mayor?
Good morning. We're going to sing from the Teal hymnal this morning, our opening hymn, 1009, Meditation on Breathing. Can I just see, we haven't done this one in a while. Can I see if you know, do you know this one? Yes, I know this one. Okay, a few people, okay. So, let me teach you all the parts a little bit, and then you can divide yourselves. So the top part is the melody. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Yeah, that's the top part. And then we have the descant. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Let's try it. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. And then we have the simple part. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. I don't think we need to practice that one very much. So I think if you're a bass or a tenor, the bottom part, that simple one, is really nice. Breathe in, breathe out. Good, yes, that'll sound lovely. And now I want the rest of you to divide yourselves, so I do need some people on this part. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. And it's not that high. So definitely if you're in the choir, you're doing that one. Okay, and when I put up one, that's the melody. You can do that when I breathe in, and when I put up two, then the descant will come in. So let's start with this, the breathe in part. Ready? Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Keep going. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. Love. Everyone, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Beautiful. Eleanor, are you going to light our chalice? Awesome. We light our chalice, symbol of our faith, for truth sought through a questioning heart and an attentive mind, and for love pursued through obstacles inside and outside of our own human heart, and for forgiveness and all it entails. This place where truth and love meet and merge. And let's join in our unison affirmation. 9 years later, still need the words. We believe in love. We believe in truth. We believe in helping others. We believe in the sacredness of life. So our story this morning takes place in a small town that has a great big white church on a hill and the best coffee in America at the sunny Finch. So in this town there lived two kids. One was called Sarah and one was called Jake. And they were playing soccer out on the lawn of their church. And Jake accidentally kicked the soccer ball so hard that it broke one of Sarah's favorite toys. She was big mad. She felt anger and she felt sadness, and she shouted at Jake, "How could you do that to me?" Jake, feeling terrible, apologized, but Sarah refused to forgive him. Instead, she didn't talk to him at school. She didn't talk to him when she saw him at playtime. She was just so mad and so hurt and very, very sad about her toy. So days turned into weeks, and these two best friends were still not talking. And the hurt that Sarah felt in her heart just kept growing and growing. And one day, as Sarah sat alone, her grandmother Ruth noticed that she was so sad. "Sarah," said Grandma, "do you know what Yom Kippur is?" Sarah shook her head. "It's a day of forgiveness," Grandma explained. "A time to reflect on our actions and to mend our hearts. Sometimes forgiving others helps our hearts heal too." Intrigued, Sarah listened as Grandma shared stories of forgiveness from her own life. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting," Grandma continued. "It means letting go of your hurt so that you can move forward." Inspired, Sarah decided to talk to Jake the next morning. He was swinging alone on the playground, and she said, "Jake, I'm so sorry that I've been mad at you all this time. I know you didn't mean to break my favorite toy. Can we be friends again?" And Jake's face lit up. "I'm really sorry I broke your toy. I'll help you fix it, I promise." And they hugged, and in that moment, Sarah felt a great weight lifted from her heart. As Yom Kippur approached, Sarah and Jake learned more about the meaning of this day together. They participated in their local synagogue's community observance of lighting candles and sharing their experiences and thinking about the power of forgiveness. They learned that Yom Kippur was the day of atonement, and was the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, where according to Jewish tradition, your fate for the next year, as written by God, is sealed in the book of life. At the end of the service, Jake and Sarah heard a really loud sound, And when they turned around, someone was blowing a horn. They learned that at the end of Yom Kippur, one long note is blown as a reminder to ask for forgiveness and help to change for the better. As they were leaving, Sarah and Jake heard their Jewish friends say that they were excited to have food because they hadn't eaten for 25 hours. They looked at each other and said, "We have a lot to learn about the Jewish faith tradition." And so, as Unitarian Universalists, we take our inspiration from our sources, and some of those are world religions. And one of the best ways to learn about other faith traditions is to listen to someone who has that tradition. So I'm going to invite Chuck Modansky up, and he has one of the things that was in the story.
Thanks, Twinks. So what I have here is a ram's horn, and it used to be on top of a ram's head, and it's also called in Hebrew a shofar, which actually stands for anything in nature that is hollow, like a reed or a horn. And it's used, as Twink said, to announce the beginning and the end of the 10 days of awe in the Jewish religion, that time of introspection and looking at your behavior as an individual and as a community to see where you've been in harmony with life and where you haven't, and if you haven't, to make a commitment to change that and come back in. And don't we all need that in the way the world's going these days. And so I'm going to make an attempt to blow this shofar, and so you can hear what it sounds like, okay?
Thank you, Chuck. As we light our lantern to take downstairs, Grace, I believe, is going to light our lantern. Let's all just take a minute to think about any forgiveness that we need to let go of in our heart, and we'll sing our children out.
A time in our service where we honor and give gratitude to organizations in our community and our larger community that share our values. This year we have kind of tried to align all of our offerings with one of our task forces that we have. So today's offering is in alignment with the Reproductive Rights Task Force. I should say I am super excited about this one. When I was at First Unitarian in Rochester, New York, we started an after-abortion non-judgmental talk line. I actually won the 2011 Clergy Award from the American Federation of Planned Parenthood for this work. It is now its own nonprofit. It's been going for 10 years by itself. It's a pretty amazing organization. There are only 2 non-judgmental talk lines in the country. This is one of the 2. There are hundreds that you can call that give the opposite. I invite you to think about how this is in alignment with our values. And to remember that the religious person is the grateful person, and the grateful person is the generous person. We'll now take the offering mindfully and gratefully.
Your soul speaks to me, and it tells me there's pain. Your heart behind the walls cries out a healing refrain. Poisonous is the fear that doubts the way love can heal. Doubt no more, you stand at the door till freedom, free your heart with forgiveness. I cannot help but hurt when my brother, my mother, my sister cries. Surrender the anger with tears, it's all right now. Healing each other's lives with forgiveness. I can forgive now. Forgiveness, can you forgive?
I invite you to join with me in the spirit of meditation, followed by some shared silence. Please get comfortable in your seat and turn inward with me now. Share with you this piece by Reverend Beckett Kopala. Spirit of life, we know there are as many perspectives and experiences of living here in this room as there are people. Spirit of love, please guide us gently into appreciating and listening. Assist us to honor each other in conversation. Show us how we can find understanding by learning to speak one another's languages, so that we may go deeper into our beliefs and connection through a personal, communal, and perpetual evolution. Breath of life, Give us the patience to live into this faith of community, the curiosity to ask loving questions of each other, and allow us to be always expanding our spiritual awareness of the worlds within and without. Inspiration that is this life. We offer our gratitude for the comings and goings, beginnings and endings, through which we have each been granted the opportunity to reflect with openness, both upon what is within our individual experience and that which is within another's. Blessed be. May the silence we have shared continue to hold and heal us all. Amen. I have a reading this morning that I want to share with you from my book, Glad to Be Human. And I normally don't do this because it feels a little like, I have a book. But you'll see why I need to read this one to you. It's called Mosquito. Sleep's blanket of respite eludes me. Mosquito bites line the arch of my left foot, and the bed sheet scrapes my skin with remnant beach sand. The shade beats unevenly against the windowsill. I can't sleep. I'm agitated. It doesn't help that the king of irritation buzzes slowly, persistently around my head. I put the covers over my head in an attempt to escape, but then I can't breathe. I throw them off and come up for air. The impatient whine of the mosquito returns, torturing me, bumping into my temple and retreating as I swat in vain into the surrounding darkness. When I was a kid, and I still believed in God, I used to think mosquitoes were God's agitators, his way of making self-reflection a necessity, a chore. I was always glad this agitation came in the darkness of the night, so no one else was privy to my tortured confessions. Mosquitoes could get me so uncomfortably awake that I became my own agitator. Agitating thoughts would swell in my head, rushing and reeling around me. Times in my life I wasn't so proud of. Times I'd rather forget instead of remember. Times when I took advantage of a friend or misled a neighbor. Times I outright lied to cover my own failings or spoke harshly when words of love were needed. I hated mosquitoes. They became my worst tormentor. My own filter of conscience and goodwill. I wanted nothing more than to smash the little buggers buzzing around my head as well as that which conjured up in my head. I don't think mosquitoes are God's agitators anymore. I like to think of them as evolutionary justice. Imagine, if you will, a mosquito during the dinosaur age, bumping into those mammoth creatures, trying desperately to agitate, to irritate, to conjure self-reflection. Yet they were met with thick, impervious skin and brains so puny that conscious raising was never an option. Now mosquitoes are in their element. They've come into their own. They feast on soft, gullible, permeable human skin. Skin that not only is sensitive, but captive to a body that holds a conscience that can appreciate the agitation of the mosquito. A conscience that needs small, irritating reminders that we can do better, reach for more, envision ourselves grander, kinder, and more, well, likable. Sleep is starting to sweep over me. The mosquito has had its fill. I close my eyes, and for the first time ever, have dinosaur envy. Okay, so of course I'd have dinosaur envy, right? Because that mosquito made me listen to what? It made me listen to my guilt over missing the mark. Turns out in Hebrew, the word for sin comes from a term from archery. In other words, their understanding of sin is to say, you have a target over here, right? And you're using your bow, you're going like this is what you mean to do, and you release it and it goes over there. You missed the mark. That's their understanding of when you have sinned. And it seems to me I had guilt over hurting people, over not being kind as I should have been, or guilt over not being who I wanted to be. I was listening to my guilt in that night. And today you're going to be shocked by this because I'm going to have us think about our guilt, which honestly, I don't think I've ever known a Unitarian Universalist minister to have us think about our guilt. But I want to give guilt a second chance. Okay, and I want to be clear here. There's a difference between guilt and shame. The difference is guilt is something that you did, it's your behavior. Shame is feeling like you are your bad behavior or something that others are saying you have bad behavior about. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're only talking about guilt, and we're gonna talk about it. When I was in seminary, I had a class called Popular Religiosity, and we discussed many different spiritual practices that people hold. And one of the women in the group had gone to Catholic high school and, was Catholic, and she talked about the spiritual practice of confession. Now, she said in high school, every week they would line up waiting to get in the confession box. And she said, sometimes she'd sit there and she was like, I can't think of anything. So she'd make up lies and tell lies about what she was confessing about. But then she said there were times that I felt this great relief because it lifted kind of a burden of being able to talk about it. And I actually liked confession. And she said some things like this. She said she had made an excuse with like her most faithful friend not to hang out because, the popular kids had asked her to do something, and she kind of pushed her faithful friend aside. And I thought, I've done something like that. She talked about lying to her parents about something that she had done. She knew that they wouldn't approve of because, she herself wasn't living up to her own moral failing. Again, I thought, well, I've done that too. Now, here's what struck me, the difference between the two of us. She was looking at her guilt, at her mistakes, and lifting them up into the light and examining them and thinking through them, and then how to be better in the world. And what had I done? I had thought about my guilt, and I took it and I shoved it down inside of myself, and I didn't really want to look at it. I don't want to think about it. So this classmate of mine said she found a certain comfort, as I said, in that fact. And it was good to be in that confession box. This classmate of mine helped me understand why Catholics and Jews spent time and attention on their guilt. They saw and used guilt as a connection and bridge to other people and to themselves, as a means to shine a spotlight on one's darkness, which is what I do, and then perseverate on it. You see the difference? Some scholars, by the way, would argue that one of the reasons these Abrahamic traditions have a similar kind of relationship to guilt and forgiveness is because they both share an origin story together of Adam and Eve. Now, I talked about this story in August, and I went over a whole bunch of stuff about Adam and Eve, so I'm going to be real quick, like a hot minute on this one, because you all know this, right? Adam and Eve, there's an apple. They're not supposed to eat it. It's the only thing that God says not to do, right? What do? They eat the apple, right? And then God gets mad and is a little ticked off, like, come on, man, that was the only thing. I'm sure that's what God said, too. Come on, man. It just got translated the wrong way, okay? Okay, anyway, so that's where, the original grudge. Because here's the thing. Scholars point out the fact that they left the garden and they never apologized. They never said, hey, I get you put all this trust in us and we broke that trust, and I understand how that's not being in right relationship with you. They never did that. So they talk about how these practices of forgiveness come from that original grudge, like getting back into right relationship again, which I find interesting. Now, you could argue that confession is one way of making up for that original sin that is carried among humans. If you're a Christian, the idea is that if you are a true believer, God will forgive you. And your task for being forgiven by God is to pass it on to all those you encounter. In fact, Jesus was asked, how many times should I forgive? And he said, 7 times 70, right? Now, you could do the math on that, of course. But the point is, I think he was talking about infinity. And if you think about the spiritual practice that a lot of Christians go through every day, it is that piece of the Lord's Prayer, right? That piece of forgive us for our trespasses, for we forgive those who have trespassed against us. Now, as much as I find that intriguing, I have always been captivated by the Jewish tradition and how they talk about guilt and forgiveness. As many of you know, and Chuck pointed out, and so did Twinks, this last week has been the Days of Awe. It starts with Rosh Hashanah, ends with Yom Kippur, which was yesterday. And it's the practice of launching into the new year for the Jewish calendar of being in right relationship both to yourself, to God, and to other people. And it's really looking at where have you sinned. In other words, it's a different way of thinking about sin, though. It's about sin as in I meant to go over here and I went over here, okay? It's not the original sin kind of piece that is part of Christianity. Now, where my pages are. Okay. I don't have. I am missing a page in my sermon. Okay, I'm going to. I want you to get out of this whole piece, really, it's kind of this understanding of the 4 F's, right? What I love about these practices, though, is you do them in community. Remember in opening words I was talking about how it was comforting to me that my dad had made such an enormous mistake, and yet what did he do with it, right? He shoved it down. But then it made me feel like, oh man, I'm the only idiot that would do something like that, right? So when he shared that with me, I felt like, oh wow, I'm in this together, right? Like I'm connected. I think there's something incredibly powerful about like confession, like everybody does it, so you see the flaws of everybody else, but also this practice of Yom Kippur that is about really paying attention to what it is that you have sinned about. Now the difference is you do not go to a confession box. You don't go talk to a rabbi and say, hey, you know, like I kind of betrayed my friend Joe this year and I feel terrible about that, and you don't do that. The practice is actually if you do something wrong, if Joe is somebody you have kind of betrayed or been out of relationship with, you have to go to Joe and say, okay, I did this, and I understand that it may have hurt you, and it set us off on a different kind of plane with each other. I'm terribly sorry. I hope you will forgive me. Now, it doesn't even matter if they forgive you. The point is you're doing the work, okay? Okay, now, let's see whether or not I got this back. Okay, academics are starting to pay attention to this. From 98 to 2005, there were 59 programs that started in academic settings. The next 8 years, it went on from 2005 to 2013, there were 950 programs around forgiveness. Huge jump, right? What they're finding is that the data is turning out that forgiveness actually lowers your blood pressure. It's good for your heart. They're also finding that it reduces or prevents emotional disorders like depression and anxiety and neurosis. Now, if you aren't convinced about all of this, and the argument to take some kind of spiritual practice of forgiveness seriously or to incorporate it into your life, I want you to pay attention to this, okay? I know you were like, what are those rocks for? Okay, here they are. Okay, I want you to think about, you all have a metaphorical bag, yes? Okay. Now, in that bag, I have burdens that I carry of guilt over things I've done. Times that I have spoken ill of someone. I'm going to do the... Okay, or I, made disparaging comments because my own, insecurity or defensiveness got in the way. Not proud of this, but this is what it is, right? Okay, there are times that I got to add to guilt that I spoke really harshly to my children, and they didn't deserve it. Times where I took my bad mood and I made it their bad mood. Times that, I'm walking away thinking, oh, they're going to need therapy for that one. Okay, I'm going to give you another good example. I have a very, very good friend who works 80-hour work weeks. And the amount of times that I connect with her compared to how she connects to me, it's 10 to 1, right? Sometimes I forget that our connection and relationship is not, it's not a fault of her character. It's the circumstance. But I made the mistake once of getting angry with her about her character, and I hurt her so badly. It took such a long time to get back in right relationship with her because I had made the mistake of getting upset about her character, not the circumstance. Okay, so this adds up, right? Okay, we all have one of these. Don't act like you don't. Now, here's the ones that I hold grudges over people who have said disparaging things about me. They've either lied about me or to me. They have betrayed me. They've left me, like ghosted me. They have done things that like are very hurtful, where you feel so disconnected and like, I can't believe somebody would think that of me. Okay. No, not really. I mean, okay, I'll do it this way. Okay, then I have in this bag all those times my parents did that talk to me, right? Where they talked to me out of their anger, and it like hurt me, and I, every now and then at my worst, I'm still holding on to that stuff, right? Now, what I'm not putting in here is my parents gave me wings. They were they loved me fiercely, right? They let me fly. Am I putting that in my bag? No. Am I sometimes forgetting that? Yes, and it's a good thing my mother does not watch this on YouTube, okay? Just saying. Okay, this is heavy. But you all have this. I am in heels, by the way, so just know that it's even harder. Okay, now I want to go through why it's important, because we're all carrying that, why it's so important to have some kind of practice of forgiveness, some spiritual practice of forgiveness in your life. When I was in Rockport, Mass., I had a parishioner that had gotten divorced, and it was a really messy, harmful divorce to her. And she was a mess a year later. And she said she felt like she carried all this weight around, so could we create some kind of ritual of divorce? So we went out to this body of water, and we took a bunch of stones, and we put them in a circle, and she made her way talking out loud about those grudges that she kept, right? And she threw them out into the water, and she made her way all the way through. And I start walking away, and she goes, no, wait a second. I got more. She takes more stones, she puts them in a circle, she picks it up, and she says, Mitch, I understand that you didn't listen to me, but I didn't always listen to you either the way that I should have. And she threw it out in the water. She picks up another one, and she says, I'm sorry that I thought that you could fill this hole that I have with only your love. It is too big for anybody to fill alone. And she threw it out into the water. The last one, she went all the way through, and the last one that she picked up, she said, I forgive you, Mitch, for giving up. Because there was a piece of me that gave up as well. She threw it out into the water. Now, she had tears coming down her eyes and was, it was moving and helpful for her. But then the next week she said, I'm going to have to do this again. And she did. She did it for 3 years. And finally, at the end of 3 years, she came and she said to me, you know what? I finally feel lighter. I have forgiven him. And she said, I wrote him a letter about all the things that I did that, I'm asking for forgiveness from. She said, I don't really care whether or not he writes back to me or not. I feel different. Here's the thing. The only way to feel better and to get that away from you, that burden, that bag, okay, is to ask for and give forgiveness. So you all have a stone. I would love you to put it in your pocket this week. Feel the weight of it. I know it's not that heavy like this, but it's uncomfortable, okay? I want you to think of one person. They could actually be someone who is dead that you need to forgive because it is still holding you down. And I want you sometime this week to assuage your guilt or come in right relationship with what it is that you are holding a grudge with, okay? And do it this week. Either throw it in a body of water when you're done or put it down. But you will be a little lighter. Amen.
We will now join together in our closing hymn. It's from the Teal Hymnal 1008. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
forgot to announce that if you are new, by the way, we're having a UU 101 in about 15 minutes. Please join us for coffee hour, and then I'll get you introduced to Unitarian Universalism, okay? Would you please join hands for the closing words? Whatever we can do or dream we can do, let us begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. May we ever be bold in our living and in our loving. Can I hear an amen? Amen.